Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya if you're new to this channel, and I am a watercolor and acrylic artist. I wanted to show you a little bit about what I've been doing lately. I've been making these little folk art landscapes with watercolor, and then I've been making them kind of 3D looking with a lot of cutouts. So I painted the background first with the hills and the moon and the sky, and then on a different sheet of paper I would paint out flowers and trees and leaves and houses, and then I would incorporate them into my painting to make it kind of a 3D look. So it's very folk art inspired, very bright colors. That's just kind of the look that I am attracted to, I guess. So let's see here. I've got my I started recently using this bow-hung watercolor paper. I normally use Arches, but I just discovered this like a couple months ago, and I wanted to try it out, and so far it's pretty good. So I'm going to keep using it. And I've got my watercolors here. I've got my Winsor Newton watercolors, and I just have my Velvet Touch Princeton brushes here. I'll let you know what size I'm using. Oh, and I have a couple of Grumbacher brushes as well. So I'll let you know what size I'm using as I'm going along. And then I have this frame here. I just picked it up at a thrift store, and I wanted to frame this piece. So I went ahead and I took the glass out and I traced the glass so I know exactly where my border is going to be. So I don't have to paint on the edges or anything and waste my time because it's going to be cut out anyways. So I will put that aside. All right, I have got my pencil here, and I'm going to do some light lines of where I think I want. I've been really doing like a lot of hills lately. So I'm just going to kind of lightly sketch in some hills, and I'm hoping you can see this on camera. I don't want to be too dark because I want to erase these eventually. And let's bring in another hill this way. All right. And then I'm going to have a moon right up here. I'm really into my sun and my moon lately. If you have a stencil, a circular stencil, go ahead and trace it if you don't feel like you can freehand this. All right, so I have something like that. And then I'm going to take my kneaded eraser. And the reason I use a kneaded eraser most of the time is because there's no pencil eraser shavings. And you can just go ahead and lighten up your lines. All right. And I am going to take my, I'm going to take my Grumbacher. I'm going to use my Grumbacher first. It's a size 7. And I'm just going to get that first hill nice and wet with just water. Actually, I am going to move over to my Princeton brush. This is a 5/8, and it is an angular brush. Just get a little bit more coverage, a little faster this way. Just get that nice and wet. And I think I'm going to pull in, let's see, my indigo first. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing on my palette here. So I just pulled in my indigo, and I'm just going to mix it. I might bring in a little bit of this Viridian green. I love my blues and my greens mixed together. All right. And then I'm just going to start and just carefully go around and trace what all the water I just put down. And I want a nice crisp line. So if it's starting to bleed up a little bit, that means that you didn't go all the way to the edge of your water line. So you just need to add a little bit more. Fill this in. And I want this first hill to be nice and dark. So this will be my first layer here. Okay, and I want that to dry before I go on. Actually, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue down here. This indigo goes on beautifully, nice and dark. And if I wanna darken it up, I'll darken it up in a little bit. But right now, that's all I'm gonna do to that hill. And I'm gonna skip this one because this is wet. So I'm gonna go to this one automatically. I have some blue on my brush, which is fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and get that one nice and wet. And I think I'm gonna choose, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a sap green. Actually, this is my hooker's green. I'm going to do my hooker's green. Get a little puddle over here. And I'm going to pull in a little bit of my indigo, which I already had a little bit of indigo going last night. So I'm going to pull a little of that indigo in there. But I want it to be a little bit more green than blue because my bottom hill is blue. All right. Bring that in there. So what I do is I normally just do the outline, and I'm holding my brush this way, so it's the thin way. And then I'll go in with the wider part of the brush, and I'll just go in and push that paint around. I'm going to grab a little bit more. And again, I'm going the thin way of my brush, and I'm just like outlining my hill. Beautiful. And I want a little bit darker down here, so I'm just going to put a little bit more paint towards the bottom. There. And we'll let that dry. All right. We're not going to do that hill because we want this to dry first. So what we will do is put some water up here in our sky. And my water's turning a little blue, but that's okay. My sky's going to be nice and dark. And I'm going to make this the moon, not the sun. For some reason, I'm more attracted to nighttime landscapes than I am daytime landscapes. Not sure why that is. All right, so I wet my whole area. And this time I'm going to pick up my Payne's Gray. And I do want a little bit of blue in there. So let me show you. I've got my Payne's Gray in a different palette over here. So I picked up a little bit of my Payne's Gray, and then I'm just mixing it in with a little bit of that indigo. So I'm going to get kind of a mixture of those two colors. And I'm going to pop it in. Grab more of my Payne's Gray. And I'm just going to kind of outline that top hill again and pull up my color. I'm going to go around my moon, and I want it to be a little bit lighter around my moon, obviously, because that moon is glowing. So I'm just going to take some clean water and just kind of push that paint around a little bit. All right, and I'm going to add a little bit more of my indigo. And at this point, you can't even really tell it's indigo because it's so mixed in with that Payne's Gray. And I'm going to bring it down right around that hill there. And I'm going to leave that part of my painting a little bit brighter because as it dries, I want it to be lighter because of the moon. All right, let's see if this one's dry. Yeah, but the blue is almost dry, but the green one is not. So I'm going to blow dry this really quick so we can paint this hill. All right, so now I'm going to get this hill nice and wet. And if you bump right up to the other hills that have paint on them already, it may smear into that hill that you're trying to get the water on. So if you want to leave a little bit of an edge there, you can. Or just be very careful and bump up right next to it. See how it's bleeding in already right here? I'm not sure you can see that on camera, but I touched the green. So it's already bleeding into my hill here. But if it doesn't get too bad, I'm totally fine with that. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my cerulean blue. And my cerulean blue is not that dark of a blue. So I'm going to add it into, actually let's make another mixture right here. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of my sap green with my cerulean blue. So see how I keep using some of the same colors and just keep blending different colors in with them? It keeps the palette of the painting very similar. Because you have, you're using pretty much the same colors, but you're just adding in different colors to it. So it just flows. The painting will just flow a little bit better. All right, I'm going to be careful going up to that line. And this may have turned out a little bit greener than I wanted, so I am going to add a little bit more cerulean in here. Let's see. Yeah, that's more the color I was going for. I'm going to push that paint around. That's the beauty with watercolor. You can just push it around. You don't want that much water on your paper though, because then it's going to start puddling and create blooms. But I actually, and I've said this in many videos, I love the blooms. I feel like it makes so much beautiful texture in my landscapes. So I don't mind the blooms, but if you do mind all the blooms that it creates, then just don't use as much water. And what I mean by blooms is where the water starts to evaporate, it pulls the paint apart and it starts to make like a little circular or a little blob, a little organic shape in there. And that is considered a bloom in the watercolor world. But I love them and I feel like it just makes a lot of texture in my landscapes. So I don't mind them. All right. And I see my sky is still wet here, so I'm going to just dry that really quick. All right, now I'm feeling like I want to do a little bit more purple in this area. I think I'm going to pull in, what color? I've got my dioxazine purple here, but I actually have this color that I've been really using a lot lately, and it's called Ultramarine Violet, and I just love this color. I don't have that much of it left, but I do want to use that. So what I'm going to go ahead is I'm going to switch over to my 7 brush, and I'm going to go ahead and just get this nice and wet. Let's see if I can do this on camera. I'm just going to go ahead and get it nice and wet, and I'm going to put it on my palette. This is such a pretty purple, but I do want to add a little bit more blue in here. So let's see. I'm going to bring in my, which one is this? My cerulean blue again. All right. That's a really pretty color. So it's kind of this purpley blue color. All right. I'm going to switch back over to my other brush, my angular brush again. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to put the water on. Oops. Let's go ahead and put the water on really quick. Now I'm going to pick up that paint. And I don't mind if this top hill is lighter than the rest of the hills because it's closest to the moon in my painting. And so it's going to be a little bit lighter anyways because of the glow of the moon. All right, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that. I want it a little bit more dramatic. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. Let's see what we get. All right, so now I'm debating if I want to darken up this hill a little bit. I'm actually kind of liking that hill like that. I think I'm gonna darken up this one. Okay, so I went ahead and I added a couple more layers onto my colors just to deepen them up a little bit. And it's nice and dry. One thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take my, let's see. I think I'm going to take my, I think this was a size 4. I don't know. I've used it so much that I scratched off the numbers. But if this one is a 7, I would think this one is more like a 4. All right. I am going to just take water. And I'm going to start taking away some of my paint on my hills here. I just want to make some lines in my hills just to give it more of that look of like, you know, when they mow the hills, it leaves a little bit of a line where they mowed. So I'm just going to go ahead and just give it that look a little bit. I'm just going to scrub my painting where I want to just take up some of that paint. Now you could do this also with your bleed proof white if you have that, but that's just going to make a little bit more of a solid white line, where this is a little bit more subtle and it still leaves a little bit of that green on there, because you're never going to get the white of the paper back even if you scrub really, really hard. But the bleed proof white would make it very, very opaque white, and I don't want that look. I want it to be a little bit more of a gentle look. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And I'm just going to try and evenly space my lines apart here. Again, just clean water, and I'm scrubbing back and forth, back and forth. And just picking it up. You could also dab your paper towel on here too. All right, that looks really good. So I went ahead and finished up my lines here by just taking away and scrubbing some of the paint off. And I'm debating if I want to do that on another hill. I have a feeling I want to do it on this hill. Although the way I do my paintings is I cluster a lot of florals and foliage down towards the bottom. You might not be seeing as much of this hill. So maybe I'll go ahead and do, you know what? I think I'm just going to leave it as one. That's it, just one. So I'm going to leave it alone, and I am going to take my, actually, I'm going to stick with my number 4 Grumbacher, and I'm going to pull in a little bit of my yellow ochre, and I'm just making a wash of the yellow ochre, and I'm going to go and just kind of dab it around my moon here. Just with clean water, just kind of mix those together. Take a little bit more, go on this side. And I'm just leaving more of the center of my moon a little bit whiter and lighter. And blend it in a little bit. And if the moon is just too bright for you, just take your paper towel and lift up some of that paint. All right, I am gonna go ahead and put in some stars. So there's 2 ways that you could do this. You can go ahead and take off some of the paint with a brush, kind of like this, and it works better in the darker areas. So you just put on a little bit of water and just kind of rub it away, and you make a little dot. Or you can use your bleed proof white. So I've got my bleed proof white, it's Dr. P.H. Martin, and I usually just put a little bit on the top like this. Mix a little bit of water in there. And I'm going to switch over to a brush that I don't care about as much. And you can go ahead and start making some little dots if you want. And this is a little bit more predictable because you know exactly where you want your dots. Or another way you can do this is you can get a bigger brush, put a good amount of white on your brush with a good amount of water. And take a paper towel or something just to cover up your painting where you don't want that. Splatter, and then go ahead and start splattering in some dots. And this is the technique that is the most unpredictable because you have no idea where those dots are gonna land up. Take a little bit more, there. So I guess there's 3 ways of doing this. All right, I'm gonna close that up. Now you make sure that you close up your bleed proof white, it dries out really fast. And if you've got a little bit on your hill here, just go ahead and dab it off. I got a little bit on my moon, which doesn't matter, but I'm gonna go ahead and dab that off too. All right, so now you've got your hills and your moon or sun or whatever you painted all done. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting in, let's see, where's my flowers? And I've showed this many times while I was making a video. So I've got a box Actually, I've got many boxes. I've got one for my florals, I've got one for my trees and houses. Let me take these out. I've got one for my houses, and then I have another box for my leaves, and I have another box for organic shapes. So I have a lot of little cutouts going here. I'm gonna pull in, maybe we should pull in a tree. I'm just gonna pull out a few that I think I might want to use, and then we'll see if they work. Because I'm not sure what color I wanna go with yet. Let's just go ahead and start playing around. All right, so I know I've got a tree. Oh, and I've got some really big houses. Where did I put those? Down towards the bottom too. Let me show you those. And so I have really little houses, but I also did really big houses. So it's nice just to have a variety of cutouts because you don't know if you want your painting to be a little bit further away in perspective or a little bit closer to you. I'm kind of thinking that this purple door is beautiful. I am going to maybe bring in, and then I've got my green leaves to bring in as well. So see how I was saying before, because I was debating if I was going to make the lines on this hill. The hill is really only there. It's going to be peeking out just a little bit, depending on how many flowers you put down. I don't know if I want to bring pink into this. I'm kind of thinking I don't want to bring pink into that. So this is the fun part. You just have to really play around. And I don't want to cover up too much of my hills. I really love the colors I used back there. But again, they're just for background. All right, and I'm gonna grab my leaves as well. Where are all my leaves? Okay, so I have another box full of leaves and organic shapes. And I usually do different color leaves. I could do, you know, yellow. I'll mix a couple different colors, or sometimes I'll just do one color. So it just depends. Every painting is gonna look a little different. And I think in this painting, I might want the more vibrant leaf. I'm not sure. So pull a bunch of them out and you'll see. Do you want it to be a little bit more subtle? Do you want it to be a little bit brighter? Do you want to go really whimsical and bring in like some pinks and red leaves? Here's another one of those. And I really like these too because it's got a little touch of the purple in there also. Let me see. When I actually have a purple leaf. Okay, so now that I have everything placed kind of how I want it, I'm going to start gluing down. And I use this tacky glue. It's Eileen's. You can get this really anywhere. I use a butcher block paper, so I can just go ahead and squirt it right onto my butcher block. And when I'm done with this painting, I just tear this piece off and I roll out a new one. So it's just really easy. You're going to want to see what's in the background first, because obviously you want to glue down what's in the back first. So I know that this little leaf here is in the back. So what I do is I take a little bit of glue on my finger and I smear it all around. Make sure it's on your whole leaf. And this part can get a little messy, but I don't mind it. If you do mind it, you can wear gloves. You can brush it on with a brush. Hold it down for a couple seconds. All right. And then go ahead and place your next little image. Now, once you glue these down, you have very little time to pull it off. This glue is really good. If you let it dry for more than a minute, you're not getting that painting off. So make sure you put it on exactly where you want it. And I think I want it like that. Oh, see, I want some of that hill showing. I really like those lines there. Maybe I'll just go like that. That's all right. Hold it down for a minute. And then some of the images that you had glued down previously might be popping up a little bit. You just have to kind of push them down again until they stick. At this point, I would go ahead and cut out my image, and I can also bring in a little bit of my glitter glue. Sometimes I like to add a little bit of glitter just like on the roof lines, or maybe just outline some of the leaves, or maybe even a little bit in the moon or the sky. So that's your choice. And you can also bring in some metallics. I've got a gold and a silver if you like that look. And I think sometimes I bring in, where's my original? Here it is. Sometimes I bring in, even with my bleed proof white, just a little bit of little vines and stuff in the background. If you want to do that, you can do that as well. But I think I'm not going to do it on this painting. I think I'm going to just leave it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And then I am going to, you can use an X-Acto blade, or you can use scissors if you feel like you've got a steady hand. And I'm just going to use scissors and cut out where my original line is. It's beautiful. All right, and I think I am going to, go ahead and add a little bit of glitter on the moon, and maybe a little bit of glitter on some of the roof line. I'm not going to do that on camera because it's really hard to see the glitter on there, but just know that the finished product is going to have a little bit of glitter on there. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and make a comment in the comment section if you'd like to see a little bit more videos like this one. And I'm having a really good time making these folk art videos for you. So just let me know. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.